the official Catchup podcast. It's Ben and Chris. We're back for another week of all your non-league football action within the lower leagues of Scottish football. Chris, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Apart from it's like suddenly turning freezing every night. I don't know about yourself, Ben, but like in the mornings when I leave for work and when I come back, it's absolutely like freezing. So
And dark, you know? It's like
dark as well.
I don't go into work very often. I work from home, thankfully. So, but when I do go in, you're having to go in, and it's really dark outside in the mornings when you leave to get the train and stuff like that. But I'm lucky in this office. I've got about 1 million computers on, and it's quite small, so it's not too bad for me. But I know when I go outside the office, it'll be a bit colder. But we're back, as I said. We missed last week's episode. I was away to St Andrews for a couple of nights and seeing the sights of the glorious St Andrews, all the golf and all the great stuff that you can do there. I also ate loads of good food. I've got to shout out. I don't like to advertise very much. We just spoke about it, but I've got to shout out the Criterion in St Andrews. The pies in there are absolutely unbelievable. The best pie I have ever tasted in my life. Now, I'm not a pie guy by any manner of means, but I've heard good things, and I thought, right, we'll go and try the pies. My wife had a steak and ale pie and had a chicken and chorizo pie. Oh my, unbelievable! If you're in St Andrews, check it out. So.
I'm a Fifer, mate, and St Andrews is the only place in Fife that I feel like totally out of place with. Like, honestly, this place is way too posh for me. Like,
so this is funny, right? So I had never been to St Andrews before, and I was looking forward to it. I'm a big golfer, so I'm into all that kind of stuff. And a lot of folk had said that to me before they went. It was quite posh, but I really liked it. I really enjoyed the vibe. I wouldn't say that I am posh or I fitted in by any manner of means, but I liked the vibe. I liked what was going on, and I liked the restaurants, this hotel. The spa was good. I'm not going to go too much into that detail because it was a wee bit mental, but still, I'm not going to go further on that one. But there's a story behind the spa which left me a little bit scarred. But I can't remember if I told you, Chris, beforehand or offline. If not, I'll tell you afterwards.
I need to hear this. Like,
not one for sharing in the public domain. But yeah, of course, we'll move on swiftly onto football matters. Firstly, Chris, have you been watching the World Cup?
I've not even watched a single game, not for any political reason or anything like that, or social or moral reason. Just I've just not really been interested. I'm always that way though. I'm so much of a sort of club football enthusiast that if it's not Scotland involved, I don't really care basically.
I've watched a lot of it. I must admit, I do. I get the iPad sitting in front of me when I'm working. It's quite good. Just I'm watching the games as I'm doing bits and pieces. I've watched a few games in the big telly, if you like. And the one thing I find about the World Cup is it doesn't feel very authentic. Like I was at Bus Park Friday night, obviously, which I'm sure we'll touch on at some point. But that felt just real authentic football, and it was like. Yep. Even watching, like, I saw a couple of games of the English FA Cup were on, kind of ITV and BBC and things like that, kind of laced in between the World Cup coverage, and I just felt it was much more authentic than what was happening in the World Cup, and then it kind of led me thinking about like the Premier League and stuff like that, and I just felt it's all too polished and too just saturated, not the football we know and love. I think the SPFL Prem is probably better, but probably only marginally. I still feel it's a wee bit. It's getting towards that way of feeling a bit kind of polished and just not the same. But I certainly
it's like tourism football, isn't it? Really,
I feel like that. And as I say, I really enjoy like this sort of football. Like tonight, for example, you get here versus Pollock on the TV, which we'll touch on, and it's things like that. I think I'm just much more interested now, rather than this kind of stuff. The World Cup is interesting because I'm doing like kind of predictor competitions and last man standing bets and things like that with people, and they're fun and keeps it interesting and makes you interested. If I wasn't in a predictor league, for example, I probably wouldn't bother. Be quite frankly with the World Cup, but I'm watching it because I'm doing the scores and keeping up tabs with what's happening. But it's an interesting one. It's a strange time. Nearly December, we're talking about the World Cup. taking place as well. I find that maybe a bit odd, but just shows you what money can do in it, Chris. If you got
Yeah, well, there's that to it as well. I think I say it's not really because of where it's held or anything like that, but I think even I've seen events, not so much in Qatar, but obviously in like Saudi Arabia and that, and there's just not an atmosphere. There's just nothing there that's, I don't know anything about Qatari football or anything like that. I don't know if they have clubs or, so I'm a bit ignorant in terms of that, I suppose. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it's, the number one sport. Well, I mean, what would the number one sport be there? Probably the F1 or Formula One or something like that, or sports cars or So it's not a football country for me. I mean, even if a lot of people complained about South Africa with the Vuvuzelas and all that sort of stuff, I don't know if you remember that far back, man. But at least that was something. They brought something. That's what the culture around football and whatever else. I don't think that exists in Qatar, to be honest.
It's funny you mentioned the Vuvuzelas because someone I seen on Twitter had been out there at the World Cup, and they were saying that when you're watching TV, you hear like horns being like blasted and the crowd noise. But they were saying when you go to the stadiums, you don't really hear them. So like as if they were pumping in like really annoying horns because that was like happening. Like it was weird, but anyway. We're a non-league football podcast in Scotland, so let's not dwell too much on the World Cup.
Yeah.
Hopefully France win it, and I'll make a few quid. But apart from that,
Spain would be my favourite, I would say.
Spain look good, yeah, 100%. They look decent. But we'll move on then to the Scottish Cup weekend that we had. We've got the Scottish Cup, we've got some West Scotland games, some Lowland League games, a couple in the Alex Jack Trophy and the East of Scotland as well to cover off. So we'll start with the Scottish Cup. Open goal Broomhill 1, Alloa Athletic 2. This is a game you've probably seen as a potential scalp, and I'm going to use the air quotes there for the people watching on video because I've got a bone to pick with people who are using the phrase scalp when teams are beaten. But we'll come on to that later on. But yeah, Chris, 2-1 to Alloa. Dubious, dubious penalty. A terrible shout for a penalty given to Alloa to decide the match.
Yeah, obviously Open Goal released a clearer video because it wasn't really that clear in the Scottish Cup highlights. So I think there was players in the way basically, but the movement, just the way Kirk Broadfoot sort of moves into the ball, it's like I don't see how that's a handball. Like even just his arm would have to be up like that, sort of pushing it, and it's clearly off his chest. So the referees had a shocker right at the death, and it's cost Broomhill massively. And it's a bit of a shame for Broomhill. I know a lot of people are obviously like, what people are like with Broomhill, they love it, and I'm sure that the Alloa fans were loving it as well. But I think Broomhill have done well there against a decent Alloa side that are, many divisions up above them. And I think we have to give credit. I know we all often do, but the attendance, 1,400 people. Speaking of sort of pumping music and noise or whatever, I did see that Open Goal responded to a tweet basically saying that someone accusing them of that. But yeah, 1,400 people can make a good noise in a decent stadium. So
that's Broadwood, isn't it, as well? So it's like the chances are, I think, as well, the cameras are going to be quite close to the fans and things like that. So yeah, I did see that. It was quite funny. I had to laugh when that comment was put in. Yeah, disappointing for Broomhill. I think they're the kind of team that obviously we want to see progress as far as they can. They've been absolutely done in hindsight there from the penalty, and I think they've matched Alloa all the way. And to me, they're a team that I think should have beaten Alloa, personally. I'm of that opinion that they're good enough to go out there and beat Alloa and manage them on their day. So, just unfortunate, but they'll take a lot of pride in the performance, and hopefully now that they can kick on in the league and get back to winning ways in the league. Because they've been through a kind of a rougher spell in the Lowland League the last few weeks.
Can we touch on episode 3 of the documentary? What was it? Crossing the line or something?
That's it.
I always, it's weird. I always find that the title of that documentary a bit weird. Crossing the line. It's like something controversial, or I don't know if that suits them. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's always a good thing, a good bit of content to watch. I always enjoy it, I must admit, and it's one of those where you're getting to see a bit of insight into the people that are involved. Haven't seen a lot of Moza, I must admit. Where's he been? Would expect to see more of Moza. Hopefully, maybe we'll get him in a future episode, maybe one point on the documentary. I see him and his good mate Kevin Kyle doing the commentary, perhaps, maybe a wee bit about them. But I do enjoy it. It's an interesting one, and I think you can definitely tell that they obviously were worried about their jobs at one point when after they got off this game and stuff. And, but I don't know if that's really a thing. To be honest, I couldn't see them. Like the open goal people sacking Sai, he's fundamental to the open goal thing, like the whole kind of podcast and everything that comes with it. I would find that very strange if he was to get sacked, certainly after like 3 months in charge, whatever. It would be a strange one, but nonetheless, great content as always.
Yeah, and just a wee note, obviously, I quite like I like Slaney as a coach. I must admit, he seems quite a calm guy when Sai's obviously been playing. Slaney kind of, you don't see him being like overly assertive, but he seems like that sort of calm, sort of, arm around your shoulder type person, and I quite like that from Slaney because he's often been portrayed an open goal as a sort of crazy mad guy.
Jack the lad, one of the boys kind of thing. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you've seen bits in there where he's come in and maybe made comments or been on the touchline, and maybe there's also been a bit about him playing and coming back to play and stuff like that. But I think he even admitted himself on one of the episodes that he was like not he's past it, but certainly the players that are in that team are much better than him, and he's not offering anything on the park, which is very honourable, I think, for him and from open goal, because I think you could have a lot of people would talk about the kind of the circus, if you like, and the show that comes with it, and maybe would have seen Slaney as part of that, but he's been very, very honest about that, and fair play to him, because many people I think would have thought otherwise on certainly, and I think it would be interesting to see how that all unfolds with kind of the whole thing across the season, because open goal are doing well enough in the league for the first season as a team, a whole new squad, etc. They've also had a few blips on the road, but they're only going to get better the more size involved, and they can keep that team together. It'll be interesting to see where they can go.
Yeah, and I must admit, like I've said it numerous times, but I don't really watch open goal. It's not really it's only perception from sort of probably years of it being kind of out there sort of thing. I do watch the documentary, I do enjoy it, but I have, as I say, I've warmed to Slaney a wee bit as a coach. And Sai, I think one of the things that sort of came up on Twitter is someone, made a comment that he kind of found them really aggressive and probably not the right way of a modern manager to approach players. But I think you also see the other side of Sai, obviously, where he's letting boys off or whatever because their wife's just giving birth or their girlfriend's just giving birth and stuff. I think there's two sides to it. You see Sai during games where we all know Bromhill are a quality team and they should be beating the likes of Glenrothes, in fairness, and they should be. I think I would probably react the same if I thought players weren't going or doing the best of their ability or whatever, and they could be much better. You do want to push them, and that's probably one way to push players to be better is by being aggressive. I mean, we've all probably played football at a young age when we're petrified to make a mistake without getting absolutely bollocked or whatever. But I don't find them overly aggressive. One thing I will say is I don't know why the hell he thought Stirling Uni played a 4-4-2. I had to message.
You weren't happy with that, were you?
No, well, Moza was like, "Oh, well, Stirling Uni they played a 4-4-2 against us." I'm like, "Mate, they're not playing a 4-4-2, no chance." And I was proven right. But yeah, I don't know where Sai got that from. He needs better scouts, I would say. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Moving on, then we'll look at it'll probably be the result of the round. Drumchapel 1, FC Edinburgh 0. I mean, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. I think nobody expected that. I think obviously we're recording this on Monday night. This was Saturday, but I'm still speechless almost on it. I was actually in a shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon for a change because we had a game on Friday night, but I was kind of keeping up to date with my the scores on Twitter and stuff, and I was like, just couldn't believe it. And fair play to the team down at Drumchapel. There's a lot of good people involved there as well, and obviously a new club kind of trying to make their way, and they've got through the Strathclyde Demolition Cup plus the SFA Shield or whatever it's called.
Yep.
And I've got just season opportunity there as far as I'm concerned, and I've managed to get through on the day. I just managed to split the teams by getting the goal, and I think I've watched the post-match interview from Alan Mabry, the FC Edinburgh manager. He feels like he's got a bit of sour grapes a little bit about the pitch and stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong, the pitch was absolutely shocking. The Lochburn Park, Maryhill is a ground that is always pretty bad in terms of the park, but it's ultimately a leveler for, I think, probably these teams like Drumchapel are probably used to playing on parks like that week in, week out. FC Edinburgh probably not, but fair play to them in the draw for the next round, and could get potentially a Rangers or Celtic, a Hibs, Hearts, for example, Aberdeen, and get a big tie.
Yeah, I was shocked as well. I mean, if I looked at all the non-league ties in the Scottish Cup or the ones that featured non-league teams, I probably would have not thought that Drumchapel would have got through against FC Edinburgh there. But I think at the end of the game, obviously, seeing the reaction is what you love for as a non-league fan. Absolutely amazing fireworks going off and everything, mental scenes, and obviously, me and Moz are good pals with Martin Green, so it was good to see him obviously happy. Big Paolo still doing the business and that, so fair play to them, as you say, mate. And it was a shock, though. I know a lot of them. I use the shock in inverted commas, but to me that was a shock, and it's a fantastic result for the pitch. I mean, yeah, it didn't look great in the highlights, but as you say, it's a leveler. You know, most teams play on all different types of surfaces. I think it's pretty poor blaming the surface if your team's not got a result against a team. In fairness, they probably should be beaten.
I think they from all accounts, they battered Drumchapel. Couldn't get the ball in the net. One of those situations. I don't know how that feels, given our result Friday night. It felt very similar to that. And yeah, it's unfortunate for Edinburgh. They'll be gutted, I'm sure, but yeah, hats off to Drumchapel. That's all we can say there. Next game in Hamilton 4, East Kilbride 0. And I think for me, this is a shock of a different level. I know Hamilton are a championship side, but a championship side for me in freefall. I kind of expected East Kilbride to go there and get a result, given how good they are. I didn't expect to lose 4-0, certainly, if we were going to lose. So, East Kilbride out the cup, but see, Hamilton had no joy this season at all, so they'll be delighted to get through.
Yeah, I think the scoreline kind of flattered Hamilton, I would say. It was kind of 4-0 into the sort of later stage into the game. I think the heads probably dropped for East Kilbride. They've got Andy Ryan on his day as well. Scored a hat-trick, lobbed Curtis Lyle over the EK goals for, I think, his third. The second half's probably wee bit unkind to East Kilbride, but I'm assuming the heads just dropped, and Hamilton obviously being the sort of the team higher up the divisions probably just got that bit in between their teeth and went on and won the game. But the scoreline, I think, as I said, is probably a wee bit deceiving on how that game went, in fairness to East Kilbride. Next
game then we'll look at is Albion Rovers 0, University of Stirling 1. That was after extra time. Those pesky students getting another result in the Scottish Cup. Albion Rovers didn't quite learn the lesson from their game against Glasgow Uni, and this time they've been turned over by the Uni side. We all know how good University of Stirling are. That if you're a regular listener to this podcast, you'll know what we think of them, and just another great result. And our team that will be looking out for the draw to see what they get. There'll be obviously some nice ties potentially for them ahead.
Yeah, kind of sick of talking about Stirling Uni and praising them. Like this turning into the Stirling Uni podcast even more than maybe Linlithgow or Darvel now, but
Darvel got beaten by University of Stirling a few weeks back.
True.
So
that's true as well. So they just need to beat Linlithgow. Maybe they'll get them in the Scottish Cup, and then they'll be the main sort of talking point of the podcast. Not very happy for Chris and the lads and the backroom staff. And there's probably not a lot we've not said in the past about Stirling Uni. I think one thing that's clear to me, even in small ways in social media, for example, if there's a uni player in the team of the month, there's a togetherness about that squad in the sense that there's not really a lot of bitterness about it. Like, say there's any other club player, like one player from that club, you'll get him maybe liking to retweeting it. There's probably not a lot of other club players or his teammates that will do the same. Whereas Stirling Uni, it's like all the team likes it, right? And I think there's a togetherness about the boys there, and even guys that used to play with the uni, obviously guys like Jamie Penker, I saw him obviously congratulating the boys. It's like a bond that I don't see with any other teams, and I think it's helping them so much this season. Obviously, they do have a lot more time together than other teams. In fairness, I think that's fair to say. But they're surpassing all of my expectations. I kind of broke my own rules about favouritism. I kind of said something, gave them a right. Hopefully, good luck, lads, sort of thing. I usually do it to both teams, but well, in fairness to Albion Rovers, we said a lot of stuff about them. They've said a lot of stuff about non-league, predominantly their manager Brian Reid. But yeah, in fairness, the social media guy said it should have been us that done our homework, and as far as I'm aware, the hospitality to Stirling Uni was fantastic and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, Stirling Uni were probably a wee bit lucky at the end of the match because obviously Albion Rovers did have a penalty and the boys skied it. So they're the type of things that you need on a day like that. So it could have been a different story, but Stirling Uni, they've took their chance, the chance that they needed to take. They had loads of chances during the game, and in a typical Stirling Uni fashion, they've not taken them. But the chance that mattered, they did take. Whereas Albion Rovers have missed a penalty at the death, whereas obviously Alloa didn't against Broomhill, but. I think they also hit the post into extra time as well. So they've been unlucky in a sense, Albion, but Stirling Uni, I mean, who cares? They're through. I'm happy for them. I'm chuffed with them. Chris and everyone else has probably said it way better than I could. Proud's not even the word to describe that, but I think Chris basically said it like, these memories. If these young guys don't go on and have great careers, hopefully they do, but they'll always remember that sort of moments that they had with Stirling Uni, and I think that's good to get these sort of memories quite young in football. So hopefully it drives them forward when they're certainly a few of them playing higher up the divisions. But we probably talk way too much about Stirling Uni on this podcast and giving them praise. I really hope for a big tie, and if it's one of the bigger teams, I'll hopefully get to see Stirling Uni soon, because I've not really seen much of them other than highlights and against other clubs. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them. But that's probably when they'll lose when I turn up to a game. So I'll probably be their jinx. We'll wait and see. I'll never be welcome back. That's it. Always happens like
that. The one thing I would highlight to University of Stirling is I've been doing this podcast for now over 2 years, and they only just started following me on Twitter on Saturday.
I think they've had a note of how many times you've praised them, and then you reached that amount. So.
Oh, it's at a level, right? So after 10 times you get a follow, right? But yeah, it was disappointing to see that was only just happening, but nonetheless, we'll love it. We'll go through a few games that don't really involve a lot of teams in the Lowland League, or East or West or South. Cove Rangers 7, Dunny Pace now. Difficult one for Dunny Pace, but Cove on a great side. We didn't really expect much more than that, to be honest. Dundee 6, Airdrie 2. This was after extra time. It must have been 2 each. Going into extra time, and Dundee have rattled 4 in the extra time there. So again, another result we probably expected. Dunfermline 4, Forfar 0. Didn't see enough of Forfar when we played them. They were unfortunate to lose, and Dunfermline a league above, pulling another one where we expect them to win.
We could probably throw in a wee comment there that obviously Richie Hostler on loan from Rangers got a goal in that game. So good to see.
Good to see.
Player. Yeah,
absolutely playing up a few levels from obviously these Rangers B teams. So decent for him. For Martin 1, Stenhouse Muir 3. Stenhouse Muir will be delighted to get this win. I think there's a lot of pressure on Swifty at the moment. Manager Stephen Swift, and I think he's got a good set of players, and I think he's a good coach, and this could have been a potential banana skin for them, I would have said, in terms of the way that they've been playing. But getting through a tie, he's got guys we've talked about before, the likes of Will Sewell, etc., Matty Yates, guys that we know from before that are good players at the Lowland League and below before, and Swifty has taken a bit of a gamble on some of those guys and getting them into the team, and got to commend them for that, and to say got the job done. And the next round of that, our team that'll be looking forward to the draw, because I think that'll be the important bit for a lot of teams now, is the draw and what you can potentially get in the fourth round.
I would just comment, I think, without saying too much or revealing too much, because it's probably a conversation towards the end of the season, but I think some of the criticism towards Swifty and Stenny is really unjustified. I mean, you've got really good teams like Dumbarton, Stirling, Albion, that I would say have probably a wee bit more in terms of backing and whatnot. So I don't know why people are think. I think there's a lot of expectation on Stenny when I don't really see why. Really, it's not like they're a top level team.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's strange to me.
They're not going to be like a title challenging side for me. I think that.
Yeah.
I think they're well placed to qualify for the playoffs and maybe get promoted that way. I don't see why they couldn't in terms of the squad they have, and they've got players. And as I said earlier on, they've got players there that are coming up from the lower leagues who are probably adjusting to playing in League Two as well. And if they can get going, I know Will Sewell, for example, started quite well and he's probably tailed off a little bit. I think there's a couple of injuries. And, we mentioned Matty Yates. He's a player that we know of, as I say. And once these guys adjust, and that's him into November, 3 or 4 months, and who knows what it'll be like the latter half of the season. I'd imagine they'll probably go and strengthen as well in probably in January. I presume I think it's a January transfer window, isn't it? In League Two, so they'll go and strengthen. And to say, I hate calling people by nicknames in podcasts because some people don't know who I'm referring to. But Stephen Swift will know the leagues, the lower leagues well, and will be looking at players, I'm sure, within the Lowland League, within the Highland League, within the West, the East, for example, and probably looking to pick up guys like that are maybe stars in their own teams just now, and potentially can add something to League Two, and employ players that should be playing at League Two level or even higher, because we know there's a lot of those players within the Lowland League, the West Scotland, East of Scotland, for example, Premier Divisions, and that's something that I'm sure he'll do, and they'll strengthen, and they'll be a better side come the end of the season. I have no doubt about it. So
it was just a word on the sort of expectations. I don't know. I don't really expect Stenny to be a really like a top team, but some people, they come across as like some people think they are, but I don't know why. That's probably my point of view.
They're one of those teams that probably, as I say, playoffs are doable for them. I don't see why they can't be in the playoffs. Could they be a League One side coming down in the playoffs? Probably, I would say so. Would they struggle in League One? I would think so. Probably get relegated or in a playoff again. Not going to be challenging, as you say. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on what's happening there. Next game then, Fraserburgh 0, Arbroath 2. For me, a routine victory for Arbroath. We've seen what Arbroath can do last season. They haven't started very well this year, but certainly wouldn't have expected much from Fraserburgh against a team like Arbroath. Next one, Great Morton 4, Queen of the South 1-0. Championship tie. For me, that's a boring game. The Scottish Cup is not really one that I'm bothered about, to be quite frank. Hillabeath 1, Elgin City 2. Hillabeath have done well to get themselves to the third round of the Scottish Cup, having beaten some good sides along the way. But Elgin were going to be a tough game for them to beat a side like Elgin, who we know are another good side in League Two. I think
Hillabeath have been hard done by. One of the, I don't know if it was shown in the highlights, but certainly there was. I think they had a goal chopped off. Wasn't offside. They've missed a penalty as well, which is unfortunate. So I think they've put in a really good battle at Kears Park against Elgin City, but we know Elgin are a decent side, and 9 times out of 10 you'd expect Elgin to beat Hillabeath, but they've made a really good account of themselves. I saw Lee Dares obviously tweeted about the game. He's gutted. He said he'd rather get beat 4-0 than get beat 2-1 and all the incidents in the game and whatnot. But they've been unlucky. Hillabeath on a different day they could have won that, but again on a different day Elgin could have probably put 4 or 5 past them. It's a cup game, isn't it? It's one of those. It's going to be sore for Hillabeath for a while, but yeah, fair play to them for getting this far in the Scottish Cup, because there weren't a lot of non-league teams that did.
Next one, Inverness Cali 3, Stirling Albion 2. Another routine victory, I would say. Obviously, a lot closer than I'd expected, but just shows you the levels.
Stirling Albion, a top
side.
team.
And the levels between Championship to League Two are probably similar to the differences between League Two and the West Premier, East Premier, for example. There's not that much in it for me. Next one then, Linlithgow Rose 1, Sauchie Gingers 0. It's the end of the road for Sauchie in the Cup. It's a shame, but coming up against a side like Linlithgow Rose, we know how good they are. We've waxed like the club of them all season. We firmly expect them to win the league. And the Cup against a fellow East of Scotland Prem team. It was obviously quite tight on the day, so Sauchie obviously put up a good fight, but Linlithgow obviously showed that class in the end to get the result.
Yeah, Mark Stowe versus Ross Kavanagh, two favourite guys. Mark Stowe's the top player. I keep bringing him up. No disrespect to the other Linlithgow guys, by the way. They're all good players too. You know what? I think the difference when I see Linlithgow is they've got a bit of bite about them. They really do have that aggressiveness. You saw it against Berwick, you saw it against Spartans, and obviously Ross Kavanagh got sent off for Sauchie, which was a big loss, but I think it was a wee bit street smart from Linlithgow. He's been pulled down, he's reacted. I didn't think there was much in it, to be honest, but there was a similar situation with obviously Michael Travis and the Berwick game in the Scottish Cup, and obviously Berwick were up in arms about it. It looked quite similar of what happened there, and that's down to being street smart with Linlithgow, and that's the type of team they are. They're very good quality wise, technical wise, but they do have that aggressiveness and assertiveness, and they will, as I say, they're street smart, and if you have to have all of that to be a really, really good team, and that's, I think it's probably worrying for a lot of Lowland League teams if Linlithgow do come up, because there's a lot of top teams in this league. I've said about East Kilbride that they're missing that, whereas if Linlithgow Rose come up, they're not missing that element, and I think they would be properly way high up. And there's a lot of West teams. I think it's maybe an ex-junior thing, I guess, that you're kind of taught that sort of. It's probably what Broomhill are missing sometimes as well. I said about East Kilbride, but sometimes I feel Broomhill are missing that sort of slight edge as well. Whereas previously under Swifty, they had that street smart. You know, a lot of people would see it as kind of cheating, but it's not cheating. It's just playing the game in a different way.
It's boxing clever on it when you with the tools you have in it. It's one of those. Fucking hell, how many cliches were in that little segment there, man? So, I think Linlithgow, they're a great side. They've got a fan base that love the cup as well, whether that's a junior cup, even the South Challenge Cup, for example. They've always been, for me, a cup side in that regard, because I haven't really probably followed what's happening in the East Scotland leagues as much until now. But we know they're good, and firmly expect them to get in that playoff match between probably Darvel would expect. I think we're probably still thinking that there's going to be the battle of the Lowland League, which will be interesting. We don't expect much from the team in the south of Scotland, and that's no slight on them. We just know they're a step below. We've seen it last year. We've seen Cuthbert, so it's not as if teams around there are going to lay a glove really on either side, and it'll come down to that game between, let's say, Linlithgow and what we assume to be Darvel. I mean, obviously we'd love the Buffs to make a run for it and win the league, but maybe next season for us, I'm not too sure. Talking about Darvel then, we'll move on to their game. It was Montrose 2, Darvel 5. Again, another team I've talked positively about over the season. I'm going to throw a question at you, Chris, though. Do you really see this as a scalp for Darvel?
I think if I was John Gall, I would. No, it's not a shock, is it? I mean, if we're being realistic, I've said it many times on this podcast, Darvel have a quality that would rival most teams in League Two, probably the majority in League One as well. But we can't, I think it's fair to say we can't take that away from them, because they are still where they are. And obviously there was a lot of bit of shenanigans where there was rumours going about that Mick was leaving to go to Pollock, and we'll probably get into that a wee bit later. But I think the quality they have, and if we're being realistic, they are possibly a League One team playing in the West of Scotland Prem. And I think if we're being honest, that's probably what it is. And it doesn't shock me they've absolutely hammered Montrose. I think I've said it before in previous episodes. If you're a League Two, League One team, you do not want to play Darvel anyway, because you get because a lot of
it's a no-win situation.
100%. Yeah, we cover non-league and we know the quality of them. I don't think the average Montrose fan probably knows how good Darvel are. And then he looks at the lineup and goes, "Wow, what the hell? How are they so good?" It's a shock.
I think the thing for me, we obviously talked about the resources and things like that Darvel have, and the thing that Montrose fans probably won't realise is that Darvel are spending 12 grand, 9 grand on players, individuals over the last 2 seasons probably, 8 grand, and I think it was Lewis Morrison as well, and they're spending big transfer money, and you won't see that happen, I think, in League One and League Two very often, where they're spending that kind of money on players, and then that's what Montrose probably don't realise, is that they're buying in players and paying good wages and got those good players in the squad, and they've also got a togetherness. We've seen them on the Darvel on the bus singing the Proclaimers, "Life with You," which was a song I really enjoyed up until that point. But I thought it was ironic given the stories you've just referred to, Chris, about how Mick was potentially going to go to Darvel, and then they're singing "I Want to Spend My Life for You." Sorry, going to Pollock, singing "I Want to Spend My Life for You." And last week he was flirting with the idea of potentially going elsewhere. So that was an interesting one. But yeah, all the same, great result for Darvel. They'll be looking forward to the draw. Obviously, John Gall makes no secret about being a Kelly fan. He's probably looking forward to maybe getting Kelly at Rugby Park and that big game for him. But they're probably one of the biggest game they can possibly get. Rangers, Celtic, whoever it is. If I'm John Gall, you're kind of if they beat Pollock tonight, you're probably wanting Ayr to go and beat them because you're a Kelly fan. But yeah, they're in the hat and got to commend them. But yeah, I don't see it. That's my thing about the scalp. I don't see this as a scalp in any way, although it is in terms of the pyramid and the league structures and all that. I was having a bit of back and forth on Twitter, Facebook this morning about it. Someone who I won't name is claiming that beating Dalbeattie 7-1 was a scalp for Darvel, and I was like, come on, you can't say that. Like, I say, I'm not going to embarrass the individual involved.
Sorry.
Because, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're laughing, but it's true. I mean, that's the response it deserves, I think, Chris.
Oh my God.
But I'm not going to be that guy out of respect for the individual, because I do like him as a person, so I'm not going to make him look like an absolute.
I would respect to Dalbeattie in that, but yeah,
it's not a
scalp. Yeah,
I think not at all.
I did laugh. I probably not laughed as much when they had the video, like, thanks for the memories, Mick. I did laugh at that so much, to be fair. I thought it was brilliant.
So it's funny, you mentioned that video. They were obviously working on a bit of goodbye Mick videos, I think, and they were like obviously spending a lot of time on that content, and thought, he's not going anywhere now, so we're going to need to just kind of use that anyway, and we'll tweak it a little bit. But I was actually in the bus dressing room at that time when that video came out, and everyone just presumed that's him leaving. But no one had actually watched the video at that point. But yeah, we'll come on to that, I'm sure.
I tweeted. I remember tweeting while I was watching it. I was like, "Is this a piss take or something like that?" And then right at the end, I was like, "Oh, yeah." I did actually laugh. To be fair, I did laugh for a wee.
I was in a few group chats with different football West of Scotland. I remember one with you guys. And, straight away, that was the thing. It was like, "Oh, Mick's leaving," and it's like, fucking watch the video and you realise it's not that, and they've absolutely caught you hook, line, and sinker. I don't know if that was the intention, certainly, but people were. Someone
DM'd me actually, like, "Oh, what?" Because I obviously put like laughing emojis or whatever, and someone was like, "Oh, what's the reaction about to Mick leaving or whatever?" I'm like, "He's not leaving." What are you talking about?
Yeah, calm down. Next game then back in the Scottish Cup then is Partick Thistle 3, Celtic Hearts 0. Disappointing day for Kelty. We know they're obviously a good side, and they're kind of I wouldn't say toiling in League One, but they're maybe not the team that we maybe expect them to be. They maybe found their level a little bit. Up against a team like Partick, who started well, struggling a bit just now. There's also a bit of fan turmoil as well.
Yeah.
That sideshow's happening with the takeovers and stuff like that. But fair play to Partick.
Another sort of debatable sending off. I did watch the highlights. Joe Cardle's obviously been sent off for like some weird sort of 50-50 whatever. The good thing about the Scottish Cup is we don't really have to listen to what we're saying because you can see it for yourself most of the time. So, but yeah, it was an off day for Kelty. I've not really kept up with them as much, to be honest, now that they're up in League One.
It's kind of League One team, aren't they? They're just kind of disappeared into that kind of
that void of Scottish football,
like,
I always say this, I always think this, and I believe it to be true, that the glory days are when you're in non-league, when you're getting to that point.
Yeah, you're on that journey, you're building your way up and you're getting things in place. I must admit, though, this game was interesting because I know it's all if, buts and maybes and all that, but had we beaten Forfar in the Cup, we would have been the same ball number as Kelty. We'd have got Partick at Firhill, so I was a bit gutted when I seen the draw come out, and like we weren't obviously in the draw, because when you see things like John Chapel beating FC Edinburgh and Davil beating Montrose, it makes you feel sick not being involved in that next round. I'm not going to lie. The text Brockett at Clydebank, they were obviously packed out the round before us, but I was like, how pish is this when it's not involved in this round of the Cup? And it's just a boring league game on Friday night against Glenafton, and I think Clydebank were the same. I think Clydebank were off actually the weekend, and we just felt a bit kind of like, meh, it would be much better to be involved than not involved. But yeah, decent result for Partick. They'll be in the hand. We'll look forward to the draw and see who they get. Next one then, Peterhead now, Queen's Park 3. For me, routine result for Queen's Park. Peterhead are an absolute free fall at the moment. Probably going to get relegated, I think, from League One. Queen's Park we're doing all right, holding their own in the Championship. Queen's Park sitting 4th in the table at the moment in the playoffs. So yeah, Peterhead, I think a team in absolute free fall. You mentioned Jim McInally, Chris. Yep. He's just left. Cy Ferry, we've spoken about him before. He was in a massive part of that, by the sounds of it, previously. Before he moved to Broomhill, a couple of players that were on that team, like Gary Fraser and Derek Lyle, for example, were involved at Peterhead before, and it's obviously a bit of a new team and a few changes, and they're struggling big time at the bottom. At Queen's Park, a team climbing, a team that have really gained a lot of success from going professional, because obviously they were seen as an amateur team for a long time. They went professional a couple of years ago. They obviously sold the ground. They sold Hamden or whatever it was and made a lot of money, and have managed to build. Obviously, they're building a stadium at Lesser Hamden, if you want to call it. But yeah, they're doing absolutely great, and so they continue on in their Scottish Cup adventure.
Do you think, just on a note, I think you kind of mentioned it earlier, but do you think Cy, if that job was, say, still available in the summer, do you think Cy would make the move back? I don't want to break Mozler's heart or anything if he's listening in, but do you think Cy would be tempted to go back to Peterhead?
I know he obviously has a massive love for the club. That's apparent from other podcasts and things like maybe see he's done a few interviews in different podcasts and things. And he also got a massive love and affinity to Peterhead as a club. I think maybe Jim McInally was a big part of that, perhaps, because he gave him his chance as a coach. But I think if you're listening to what he's saying around the open goal and the journey and the whole story around open goal and looking to obviously climb the leagues, etc., it's a job like Peterhead. Is that a job for Cy? I don't know if it is. I think you can make a name for yourself in the Lowland League, potentially win that, get into League 2, improve your squad again. I'm sure that open goal are going to be well backed compared to Peterhead. I think that'll be clear. So I don't think
Peterhead.
Open goal Peterhead. Then maybe, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
could be the thing. Like,
I'm copywriting that, like,
just in case.
Just in case. Get my royalties and all that.
Who knows? Yeah, it could be a thing. 2 more games I look at that were played on Saturday. Wraith Rovers 3, Auckland Talbot 0. I mean, I'm not surprised in it. It's coming from me, who's part of a team who got pumped 6-0 off Auckland, but I'm not sure Waythrottle's a good side, or the League One side doing decent in League One. Auchinleck are a team and kind of, like we always talk about, in transition. They've hit a bit of form again recently, and they're doing okay at their level. But when this year, they're obviously just bitten off a bit more they can chew with the Wraith Rovers, and it's a straightforward win for Wraith.
They did hold them off for a wee bit, but yeah, I think the quality, you see that in a lot of games sometimes. They'll get held off, but the quality shines through in the end, and that's when you'll get like the Hamiltons and not to say that they're overly, quality wise, but certainly they're probably at a better point than East Kilbride as are Wraith with Auchinleck.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think they have that little bit of quality. They've got maybe the fitness and the consistency as well. At this level, I think we've seen that when we played Forfar, that we matched them in terms of on the park for 90 minutes, but they just had that little bit of class and a bit more kind of maturity around their performances. And I think that's probably the same year. It's been one of those where Wraith are a good side, well organised and well drilled, and just too much for Auchinleck. Next one then, Wick Academy 0, Falkirk 6. Everyone will be absolutely delighted that Wick Academy are out of the draw, so not to trek all the way up there. But again, routine win, I think, for Falkirk. Fully expect them to beat Wick Academy, and they've done so. So there's probably not much more to add to that. Final game then that is already taking place is Clyde 1, Dumbarton 3. I guess another scalp, if we're talking about scalps, and for those listening, I've used my ear quotes for the phrase scalp, but certainly Dumbarton, we've talked about them I think a few times now, good side, very capable, obviously got relegated from League One. Clyde are a team that kind of middle of the road. Another, you feel like League One is a bit of a void in it when you think about it. It's just teams full of teams like meh teams, like you don't really like. It's probably going back to that thing we talked about before. They're just fine. Like they're just not really going to do anything spectacular. They're not going to do anything terrible. They're just going to be kind of yo-yoing up and down from kind of league, from the Championship to League One, League Two, and up and down. You know that's a lot of those teams in League in League One. There's a few teams also there that probably should be bigger in terms of like Wraith, Falkirk, Dunfermline. There's teams like that you probably look at and go, they probably should be a bit higher. But yeah, there's a big void of teams that won in Dumbarton. As I say, good side, got some good players. We've talked about Finlay Gray before, who's a great player and probably a player that for me can probably go on a bit. If I'm being honest, I think he still has. He's got a move in him. I think if you look at, that's what you're always looking at. I think from our perspective, is the players that we think maybe can move up the leagues.
The only thing that really interests me about League One is the fact that Dunfermline and Falkirk are in the same league, because that's the hefty rivalry. But true. I mean, would I pay £20 to go and watch them? Probably not.
That's the other thing, isn't it? the price of tickets in that league is absolutely mental. But yeah. Right, the final game we'll talk about then, it's the one that's happening and kicks off in 25 minutes as we record this, is Ayr United versus Pollock. Plenty to talk about when it comes to Pollock, eh, Chris?
Yeah, of course, new manager. We kind of alluded to it with Mick Kennedy being sort of touted for the job or rumoured to be moving to Pollock, but it was Stuart Maxwell who I think we've mentioned Stuart numerous times, but more so yourself, Ben. You kind of had previously praised Stuart, and basically I think you had. I'm still trying to figure out if you had said that he should be at a bigger team. He's done that.
Is that a receipt I could write out?
Yeah. But yeah, 10 years, obviously. 10 years at Rob Roy. I think it would have been a difficult decision to leave, but when Pollock come calling, obviously they're one of the bigger teams in the West. Deserves his move. I'm probably 100% certain that you've probably got a lot more to say and more insight than I do, Ben. So let's move on to you.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it there. The rumours were doing the rounds. I think we kind of touched on it the week before, week before last in the podcast, when we knew that Murdy had been
let go.
Well, I believe he resigned is the official patter, but I've seen elsewhere in other non-league football outlets that he was potentially, like you say, let go. But Murdy moved on. There was also a vacancy. That's a massive job as far as anyone's concerned. Pollock are a big team within the west of Scotland. They've got good resources behind them. Obviously, they're paying good players. They've got a good squad of players. There's players that are maybe coming to the end of their careers, perhaps. And I think the thing we've seen from Pollock when Murdy was in charge, that the lack of success, and that's something that Pollock fans will have demanded, and that's how Murdy essentially fell on his sword, because he just wasn't bringing success to the club at all. There was getting the odd result where it was papering over the cracks, as far as I was concerned, and the likes of winning against Annan in the Scottish Cup was probably that case example where they played well, but they looked at risk at times and potentially. I mean, finished 4-3 that game, and they could have potentially lost that game to a better side. And on the vacancy, when that comes up, as I say, it's a big job. By all accounts, a lot of people applied for the job. The one thing that stood out for me was that Murdy left on the Monday and the application advert was out on the Tuesday and it was to close on the Friday. Felt quite short, as if they maybe had planned their next appointment already, and that was kind of maybe paying a bit of lip service to the application process. I don't know. By all accounts, it was Mick Kennedy's job to take if he wanted it. I think that's the rumours that are down around the west of Scotland, and I don't know enough about what Mick would have wanted to do there, but by all accounts, there was discussions, and he's changed his mind on the Monday, and Maxie's been offered the job. I don't know if Maxie's applied. He's like we said, he's a good manager. For me, he was ingrained in that project at Rob Roy, and the whole kind of try to get him back to Tillock and all that kind of stuff. And but when that job comes up, and
you can't say
chance,
no.
You can't say no.
No.
He's a good manager, like I said, and before he's got the capability there to manage a side like Pollock. He'll have the resources at his back to go and improve that team, I'm sure. And Pollock are probably seeing a bit of a sleeping giant just now because they have struggled a little bit. I think the one thing that will hold Pollock back is this whole thing with the capacity of the ground.
900, that's terrible.
It's brutal, I mean, I think it's to do with the fact there's kind of like health and safety restrictions through like Glasgow City Council for the capacity. I don't know enough about it, but that's the what I'm hearing, and see the capacity around about 900. The ground's much bigger than that. When you go to it, I mean, Newlands Field is an old classic junior ground. It's got the shed, it's got the bankings, it's space behind the goals, it's got good facilities in terms of toilets and bar and food and all that kind of stuff, and it's a great ground and a good old-fashioned football ground, the ones you love to go to when you're playing.
I went there when I was maybe 13 or 14, obviously supporting I think it was Hillabeef or whatever, and they played Pollock in one of the cups or whatever. I don't know if it was a junior cup, I can't quite mind, but the old ground was intimidating as hell. Like, I remember still to this day, like, fuck it was, south side of Glasgow and all that sort of thing, and I was just like, oh, this is... I mean,
it's not changed. I wouldn't say it's changed in any man I mean.
I'd be a bit braver now, obviously, but back then it was a wee bit intimidating, obviously.
But it'll be interesting to watch, I think, obviously, for Max, his first game in charge tonight on live at BBC Scotland. There's no mean feat to start your management career. But Pollock against United, a team that are absolutely flying at the top of the championship just now as well, which makes it
well on the praise, easy on the praise.
I know it's hard, man. My videographer's an Ayr fan at the Puffs. He's an Ayr fan, so he'll absolutely enjoy this if he's watching.
That's how he's getting praise. He's been in your ear.
All he tells me is that the boys Dippo Akinyemi, who's scored about 1 million goals, by sounds of from the way he talks, and so I've got to be easy on the praise for Ayr. But on to the game, I think for me, Ayr are going to win this one quite comfortably. Maxie's probably had about a week's worth of training with the boys, and it'll be a tough ask, but if they can do it, then fair play to them. But yeah, fully expect Ayr to get the result tonight.
I'd love to see Pollock do something like get a few goals, maybe a 4-2 or something like that. But I do fancy Ayr, I must say.
Well, that rounds up the Scottish Cup. There'll be the draw. Will be made after the game tonight on BBC Scotland. There'll be a few teams there. We're looking forward to seeing who they get in the draw. But we'll move on quickly to the Lowland League. There was 3 games in the Lowland League. Quickly, we'll run through them. Celtic B 4, Cali Braves 4. Chris, I mean,
amazing comeback for Cali Braves.
Absolutely,
yeah. Mark Kelly back doing what we're used to this season. I mean, his tally, his stats, I should say, assists and goals this season for Cali Braves. Again, in the team of the month. Amazing, phenomenal season he's having with Cali Braves.
Next one's Gallifrey Rovers 2, Civil Service Strollers 1. Disappointment result for Civil, but Gala seem to be going about the business, kind of quietly, slowly climbing the table.
Yeah, one blip against Stirling Uni. Obviously, this is a really hard spell for Gala, and in fairness, they've got the result against a Stroller side that, again, probably it's one of those ones where it's kind of the half decent teams taking points off each other, I would say.
Next, the final game then was on Saturday. It was Hearts B versus W. It was a 4-0 win for Hearts B. Routine win. That'll be. We know they're struggling. There's not much more. We don't really know much about Hearts B. I think is the one I'll come back to here. And
one thing I will say about Hearts B, I think we've probably been a wee bit unfair on them in a sense, because we know they're not of the same quality as Celtic and Rangers in terms of the B teams, but they do have a much younger squad. It's only like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. I think the oldest player might be Aaron Darge, the captain, who was on loan at Gala last season. But yeah, it's a much younger squad, in fairness to them. I think we've probably not really pointed that out to a lot of people. I think we might have at the start of the season, but the results probably haven't went their way, so we've not really spoke about them positively. Callum Sandilands and Barry McLucky, I put them in the team of the month because they've been phenomenal for Hearts B. I think that was the first time Hearts B players have been in the team of the month. I think they've won the last 3 on the trot. To be fair, I think it was Edinburgh Uni, Gretna, and the sort of lower sides, if you will, but they still got the 3 wins on a trot. It's really good month for Hearts B picking up.
Definitely, and that concludes the Lowland League games that took place the weekend. I think we've got a full card coming up on Saturday, but we'll move on quickly and run through what happened in the Alex Jack Trophy. Lancarty 3, Thornton Hibs 2, and that gets Lancarty into the Scottish Cup play, or the SFA Shield, whatever it's called.
You would probably look at the Alex Jack as essentially the East of Scotland Consolation Cup. It's 4 teams that are not in the Scottish Cup, and they have the chance now to get into the Scottish Cup, who they play the West and the South team in the Shield to qualify. Like, obviously, Drumchapel won it last year, and that's why they're in the Scottish Cup. So I quite like Lancarty. They're doing really well in the leagues. We've kind of touched on them a wee bit. I fully expected them to beat Thornton Hibs, and they have done it. It's probably been a tougher game, obviously, being kind of Thornton have not had to travel as much, obviously, because they're a 5 team, so it's just up the road for them. But Lancarty are doing really well, and the boy Rhys Davis, I think, is up there in terms of scorers in the East of Scotland. So he's certainly been a big sort of main threat for them, and I think he got a goal on Sunday as well. So fair play to Lancarty.
Moving on into the West of Scotland, we'll rattle through these probably fairly quickly. There's not a lot to talk about in terms of results, but we'll start with my game. Coen Rangers 0, Glenafton Athletic 1.
Terrible.
I think, yeah, I mean, we've hit the bar twice, we've hit the post once, 2 cleared off the line, 2 disallowed for offside, and then we've just been caught sleeping at the end, right at the end. It's been the manager said in the post-match interview, it was a smash and grab victory from Glenafton. They didn't offer anything at all for me. They weren't great. We've battered them, we just weren't clinical enough in front of goal, and another day we win that game 5 or 6-0. Do you know what I mean? And it's one of those that just unfortunate. So want to take on Friday night because you're playing on Friday night, you're bigger crowd and things like that at the game, and you kind of go into Saturday with no games, and you're kind of fed up on a Saturday afternoon. All you can think about is that defeat. That's how I felt as essentially a fan. I don't know how the players must be feeling, the manager. So yeah, tough one to take. We'll dust ourselves down. We play Clydebank on Saturday, and we'll hopefully get back to it.
I might watch that actually. I think it's on. I think they're streaming it.
Streaming it, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so I might watch that if I'm not at a game.
I've been chinning David Brockett, media manager. I mentioned him already today about getting me on the commentary for that. I think you should get me as a make it impartial and get me on the commentary. But aye, yeah, it's quite cool to see a stream because not many teams do that. But I know that Clydebank have got quite a few fans across the world that pay into that kind of like their kind of supporters club type thing. So they do that. They do that anyway. I think for their fans, which is quite cool to do. I'd love to be able to do that ourselves, but we don't really have the fan base across the world yet. So who knows? Maybe one day we'll get onto that.
I love that you said. I love that you said. Yeah, I love that. I love that ambition.
It's funny. I literally was like before we came on here, I was looking at live streaming equipment to purchase because I still have this thing about doing different live stream things. And, yeah, maybe one day we'll see what happens at Buff Park. Maybe never say never, as the saying goes, because I do enjoy all that stuff. But next game then coming up 1, Atherley 0. A result kind of grinded out by Cumnock against a decent Atherley team. I think, as I said before, we played them a few weeks back and beat them 4-1, but they're no mugs. I've got the boy Aaron Healy, who's we've talked about before, who's on his way to Queen's Park at some point in January, and become look at a good side, and they've just again grinded out the victory in the end. Next one then, B Juniors 4, Irvine Meadow 3. So it was all goal. 2 own goals for Beath up 3-1. Gave away 2 own goals to make it 3 each, and then Beath managed to get the result in the end. But Meadow be disappointed. They were on a decent run before that. And, Christian, I'm sure, will be delighted to get one over on his old team.
Yeah, did he get? Do you think he would have got some abuse from the Meadow faithful? You know,
probably. I've been with him when he's played Meadow previously, and he definitely had got some abuse. I'm sure there was some. I never meant to ask him when I met him the other day, but I'm sure
extra motivation in that.
I'm sure there was. Yeah, absolutely. Next game then, Rob Roy 2, Troon 0. Obviously, Maxie had left the building by that point, and the assistant manager took over. A good result at home for Rob Roy. It could have been kind of one of those horrible ones where they're playing against a team like Troon who
they're toiling a wee bit.
Yeah, started well, kind of going backwards a little bit, I would say. Elite striker Sam Jameson still hasn't done an awful lot this year, certainly for them. But Rob Roy, good result, keeps them kind of in amongst it. I think they were at one point top of the table. They're still kind of in the top 5 and doing okay. I need to watch what I'm saying here because Troon are sitting a point above us. But I think I've got to remember we've only played 8 league games this season. The league table by no means is right yet. Where a lot of teams are at because there's so many games still to be played in terms of teams catching up at this early stage in the season. Next game then, Lags now, Cambuslang Rangers 1, a decent result for Canby. Lags and another team, I would say, toiling and struggling, and a team that have played all the league games certainly, and struggling to lose to a team like Cambuslang who haven't done an awful lot. 2 wins and 2 for Cambuslang though, so they're maybe getting a bit of form and certainly worrying the teams that are above them, i.e. ourselves, as we sit 14th as we speak. But as I say, I've got to keep reminding people that the league needs to be sorted out first before we start worrying about who's going to get relegated, etc. from the Premier League. Final game in the Scotland Prem was Petershill 1, Hereford United 2. Hereford sitting second in the league. Our team probably going about their business quite quietly, and one that don't get an awful lot of praise, but sitting second, they're a point behind Darvold, albeit Darvold got 2 games in hand, but Peasy are a team that they are struggling big time. They feel like a bit like Dalby as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the Lowland League. They're 1 draw in the last 6, 2 draws for the season, 2 points on the board.
Yeah.
Shipped 11 goals the other week to Atherley. It feels they've just got new. I mean, they have got a new management team just came in, but I feel like it's probably too little, too late for Petershill.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, Lars getting defeated by Canby as well. I think it'll come down. I've always seem like it's so cliche to say that it'll come down to these fixtures between the sort of the bottom sides, but that's to me that's massive for Canby to beat Largs, because Largs will probably be down there. Unfortunately for me, obviously I quite like Largs, but Petershill are certainly at the moment certainly the weakest team in the west of Scotland, and proven. Can they pick up? I mean, it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be a long season for them.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be hard, even with the new management team, time they get in and get their own players in, perhaps. And I just can't see it personally, but we'll keep an eye as always. But I think that's pretty much it. Anything else worth talking about?
Yeah, obviously, we mentioned new managers. I think it's important to note, obviously, Shire have a new manager, Sandy Clark, experienced. Everyone knows who Sandy Clark is. I don't really have to go into too much detail. Kind of caught me by surprise. Dale, similar to Chris, is probably one of the managers I was probably closest with in the league in terms of, a regular, sort of semi-regular contact. I know, yeah, football friends and all that sort of stuff. I hadn't really spoken to Dale much this season, but yeah, it was so much of a shock because he's a Shire legend as a player and a manager and stuff, and it was a shock that he left. Most Shire fans, I think, that I spoke to were almost in disbelief. But I kind of look back on the interviews that he was doing, because obviously I'm that guy that watches everything, and it did seem like he wasn't getting the reaction that he kind of wanted from his results or players or whatever it would have been, and I think it's been a bit too much for them seeing Shire on that slide. And I think even on the episode before we even knew that he had left, we were kind of worried a wee bit about Shire, if they're going to be losing players in January, how they would rebuild. So it's maybe a good time that Sandy Clark's came in and Dell's kind of sort of passed it on. Sandy Clark obviously must have his links and whatever else, experience certainly. But certainly in terms of what he can bring to the club, I think there's probably a few faces with his experience and stuff and links to other clubs and people and whatnot. It's interesting, but I don't know how it's going to pan out for Shire still. I would still be a bit concerned.
Yeah, it was a strange appointment for me. I think they mentioned there was like 50 applicants or something like that for the job. And
I wasn't one of them, by the way. I know I said something, but
yeah. I don't know obviously what kind of calibre of applicant they did have, but certainly I would assume that would have attracted some attention in terms of different managers who would have been interested in that role.
I'd have took them to the top if I had to.
Probably, yeah. Your football manager skills would have come in handy there, Chris, I'm sure.
Knowledge in non-league, knowledge of the Lowland League.
The Sandy Clark one's a strange one. He's not managed for the best part of 15, 17 years or something like that.
To be fair, he's still been involved in.
Yeah, he's been an assistant for. I think he's followed Alan Johnson around a lot of clubs. I think Dunfermline and Queen of the South, and I think it was Kelly and Alan Johnson was at Kilmarnock and stuff like that. So he's kind of bounced around that. I think around with him, and obviously fancies a crack at it. But yeah, it'll be watch this space. I think, isn't it? It's one of these ones that we'll see how it goes. I'm not too sure what it'll be like. I felt it maybe better off maybe going down the kind of younger kind of route and bringing in somebody that more suited to that and who's going to be part of a project maybe for East Stirlingshire to kind of rebalance themselves. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, and I think it'll be a good one to watch for the next kind of few months.
Just one of my concerns, sorry, to mention Sai again, but I do feel certain. Well, Sandy Clark's obviously experienced. Sai knows the higher level, but there is sometimes when coaches come down, I don't think they know the level as well as someone like Adele or a Stuart Malcolm or someone that's been at this level for a few years. Dougie Samuel, for example, or Gary Jordan. I think there is a bit of a lack of knowledge of the level, and I've certainly seen it with Sai. I think it's more apparent, simply because we've seen a lot of hours of him being in a documentary. For example, I could have told him that Stuart Cargill will get in his ear, get him sent off, like Lithgow Rose done to Ross Kavanagh. But you know what I mean? It's stuff like that. There is a wee bit of lack of knowledge there, and I think that can harm your Sandy Clarks of the world, that might not know the level as well as higher up, But I might be completely misjudging it. He might have been going to Lowland League games for the last fucking 3 years. I don't know.
Sitting watching all the matches. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see. We'll see. We'll see what happens, and as you say, we'll be here. We'll still be here doing the podcast week in, week out, hopefully for the next forevermore. So we'll be around to cover off everything we see from East Stirlingshire. And I think we've said it before, they're a big club, and obviously in that kind of transition coming down from League 2, for example, and they'll maybe take a bit of time to readjust, which I think they're doing just now. So hopefully they can get sorted out, and maybe send the class to man to do that, and go and bring that experience, and bring in some players that maybe can get some favours from. Maybe you might phone his boy Nicky or something to try and get him to come.
That would be a coup. That would be a
Dundee United or something. This is St Johnstone. St Johnstone plays into it. Yeah. Imagine like your son come and play for me for like 6 months and score about 40 goals in the Lowland League. But that's pretty much it from us on the official Catchup podcast. Where can we find us, Chris, if you're looking to do so?
At Official Catchup on Twitter, Lowland League Catchup on Facebook, and Official Catchup. Just Google it. We'll come up absolutely everywhere that you can find podcasts, or we're still on Internet Movie Database. I have no idea why. We're absolutely everywhere.
Who knew? Well, that's it from us on the Official Catchup. We'll be back, I'm sure, next week with all your non-league, low league football chat. Till then, catch you later.